uria garagara kana hihi kana minister wa mathako Ababu Namwamba na ikorirwo agituga athaki a mbitika ciothe guku bururi-ini hamwe na irabu iria igikite wega iria ikorirwo igika wega kimera-ini gia 2022-2023 ni gucoreire mbica iuria maundu maraikorirwo magikunuka igongona-ini riu na mwerekeri wakwa aikorwo ikunengereria riboti iyo.
10 months ago to date, on the 28th day of October 2022, I walked into the office of Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs, the Arts and Sports. And as I took over this ministry, exactly 10 months ago to the day,
igongona-ini rirabangitwo ni minister wa mathako guku bururi-ini Ababu Namwamba ri njira ya gukungwira aria manarirokia na aria marathie na mbere kunyitirira bururi uyu mbitika-ini ngurani hamwe na athaki a ngerekano na aini aikariri iti ngurani onao ni marekinyitie ata njira ya kuonania unyitaniri wao wa ministry ya mathako. Teregat uria niwe muikariri giti wa kiama kia anyuki kuma guku bururi-ini kia nok augiite athaki no nginya makorwo na muoroto wa kiria mararwira hari ameriire kumanyitirira niguo guthie na mbere kwandikithia maumirira mega.
We have been carrying out a very deliberate effort to ensure that our athletes are placed at the center of all we do within the Olympic movement.
Minister wa ukinyanĩria Eliud Owalo na uria ukugemeti igongona riri augiite mithako ni njira imwe ya kurehe andu hamwe na ministry yake iri cemba kunyitirira uraje kibesha tauria makoretwo magikana team ta Talanta. Oho Owalo niranĩire kuramata internet aniguo athondeki a thinema makorwo na ihinda ihuthu.
FC Talanta exists courtesy of one, the Cabinet Secretary 12 years ago, who founded that club. But number two, they've survived because of the work that the Communication Authority of Kenya does. We are the chief sponsors of that team for the last 12 years. So when I received the invitation to be here, I kept on asking myself, what are these points of convergence? Then I had something to count on, FC Talanta. And I believe even in the Premier League, a lot of the clubs that you see, most of them have an alumni of FC Talanta. Since we started Buenos Aires, over 300 sportsmen have gone through that particular club. 300 since we started with the club. Now is that we want to provide communication services with speed. We want to provide internet of high speed, moving from the 2G generation when we were depending on the voice call. Now we are in the space of 5G, bringing you unprecedented speeds to the extent that now we enjoy the beauty of virtual realities, holograms, which, as I speak, is a great opportunity for this community.
Minister wa mathako Ababu Namwamba augiite ati mieri ikumi iria akoretwo ooete wathani wa ministry ino niahotete gucokereria athaki na kumahe mwihoko ringi kuona ati ta mubira wa kagi akiiingira bururi wa Kenya niwahetwo mukana wa guthaka no indi riu kagi nigacokererie athaki aria mathakaga muthako wa gwitubira onao mari na kindu gia gukunguya tondu onao mukana niweheretio. Ababu niahutirie uhoro wigie iharo o ni thutha wa kirabu kia Gor Mahia kweheria mbitika-ini cia CAF kuria augiite matiamwirire mathina mao na niangegeretie guthinga mianya na uguo aroria ciama ngurani gukorwo ikirora mathina mao na kinyi.
Today, 10 months ago to date, on the 28th day of October 2022, I walked into the office of Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs, the Arts and Sports. And as I took over this ministry, exactly 10 months ago to the day, I inherited a crisis. I inherited a mess. just to give you a snippet of the mess that I inherited. I found a football scene that was frozen. And for about a year, Kenya had laid by the Football Federation of the World, FIFA. And because of that suspension, the entire football ecosystem was in limbo. And you know what? Football is a whole economy. Besides the players who kick the ball around the field, you have fellows who mark that pitch. You have people who provide security at that pitch. You have referees. You have vendors whose only livelihood is to sell wares and foodstuff during a football game. In the period of that suspension, that whole economy had closed down. And you can imagine the number of livelihoods that had been devastated because of that suspension. I also walked into the office to find this country on the brink of a ban by World Athletics because of the crisis of doping. And among the things I had to do immediately upon assuming office was to look for a gentleman called Lord Sebastian Coe, the president of World Athletics, to engage on a framework to forestall a looming ban on our athletics. I found a swimming federation that had been banned by the World Swimming Federation, FINA, now called World Aquatics. Sports aside, I also inherited an arts industry that it was in a total mess. A mess where collective management organizations, the CMOs that have the responsibility to collect royalties for artists, had not been operating effectively for a while. Federations. Today, we're dealing with crisis in Gor Mahia Football Club. A crisis that has led to Gor Mahia being locked out or participating in the African Champions League. We are dealing with a crisis around FC Leopards that has loaded FC Leopards with a fine of 20 million Kenya shillings from FIFA. A crisis that now is troubling us. And today we'll try to start a journey of resolving that crisis or those crises. But those crises are brought about by certain bad manners we must stop. Why are we going to fish for third-rate players from elsewhere instead of developing our own talents? So you go to pick some players from here, from there, and then you get into trouble with them, and they lead to the problems we are having. Why are you going to fish for some third-rate coaches when we have competent coaches right here in Kenya? And then you get into trouble. I am very disappointed. Kwanza nyinyi Gor Mahia mumeniangusha. Mimi nilikuwa nimewapangia mambo makubwa sana for the Champions League this year. Mnaijiingiza kwa tabu. Alafu badala ya kukuja kusema muko na shida, mnanyamazia kidonda. Mpaka kidonda inafika stage ambayo inaua wewe. Instead of coming and talking to us, my brother Ambrose Rachier, president of Gor Mahia, you are my friend. You are my learned senior in the legal profession. You should have talked to me. You should have told me what was going on in Gor Mahia. I talked to Mr. Patrice Motsepe, the president of CAF. I talked to Veron, the Secretary General of CAF. We would have talked about your matter. Why should your Minister for Sports read about your problems in the press? Why? When I have an open door policy. Why? What do you expect me to do when you ask me to close the door after the horse has bolted? Shame on you. Shame on you. But I want to tell you, we'll not allow this to happen again.
Athaki aingĩ nĩ marĩnũkirie iheo cia mbeca variveri. Aria no nita muthakita Angela Okitoi uria uhabataga ngaragano cia tennis aratugura muigana wa shiringi milioni 1 anyuki ahau gabere miaka-ini ya 90 ona matinati na thutha na o mundu aratugwo na kimajika gya shiringi 50,000 na umwe wao arare Catherine Dereva. Team cia Kagi ta Gor Mahia, AFC Leopards, Kakamega Homeboys, Vihiga Queens, Ulinzi Starlets, Shabana, Murang'a Seals onao matiratigwa na thutha.
Watapokea pia zawadi ya shilingi 50,000 kila mmoja.
So this is
Tuwape makofi ya kilo shilingi 50,000. Wakishamaliza wataweka
Hadoine Hamuthingi TV jitikaga wa boy wajao.